All right. Holy roller, Emilee Hackney, fresh off hitting the summit of Katahdin.
Woohoo!
Um, so we're just going to sit down with you and get your point of view on what it's like to have gone through a full through hike.
Mhm.
So, just start off. How did you hear about the AT?
I heard about it. I was probably 15 or 16. I know I was in high school. I really don't remember who told me about it or what the context was or anything, but I know I was in high school before I learned about it, which is kind of crazy because the AT runs through the county that I grew up in, and I didn't hear about it until I was, you know, a little bit older.
And what attracted you to the idea of through hiking?
Well, I've told you this story before, but my so I went up on the Appalachian Trail only for a second time back in May 2021. Like I'd been before with a friend, and we'd walk like maybe a mile of it or something. I went with my dad May 2021, and we hiked a couple of miles of it, just day hiked. I mean, didn't even take water with us. We just kind of ambled around, saw what it was all about. And while we were there, we came across some thru-hikers. And, at that point, they'd done over 500 miles of the AT. And we stopped and talked to them for quite a while. They were very gracious with their time. I know how important it is to make miles, but they stopped and talked to us for a very long time. And we talked about their shoes, their gear, how much they enjoyed it. They said that they felt like they were in college again. And this was a couple that was in their 60s. And, Dad and I were talking about it. And it was like, wow, they're really inspiring. And everybody that we saw out there just seemed so lively and energetic, and like they're just having the best time ever. And, me and him like to hike, so we started talking about it, and then we, um, it was kind of one of those things where you talk about it and you say you're going to do it, but you don't really have a timeline for it because he had a lot of years before he had to retire, and I was getting ready to start grad school. So, it was one of those things we'll do in the future. Well, then he passed away in November of 2021, and I dropped out of grad school, and I kind of didn't know what to do with myself, and I just thought, what if I just go and through hike the AT, like we talked about, because he never got the chance to. He wanted to, but he never got the chance, and I kind of had the time right then after I dropped out of school, so I thought, why not just do it? So I did.
What were people's reactions when you said you were serious about planning to do this?
Um, Mostly appalled. I think most people don't really know what it's all about. Um, and the little they do know is like the negatives, like, oh, there have been murders on the Appalachian Trail, or oh, it's really scary, or oh, you're going as a woman, that's really dangerous. They have this perception of it being a very scary and dangerous thing to do. Um, and so I got a lot of people telling me, you need to bring a gun, you need to bring a big knife, you need to do this, you need to do that. Nobody really said, oh, don't do that, because they knew that I was, grieving my dad. They knew that I was going through a hard time, but I think a few people thought maybe I was just really going through it and I was making this crazy decision, like spur of the moment, like I'd lost my mind. But on the whole, people were not, I wouldn't say not supportive, but I think they're a little confused about my motivations, which I didn't know my motivations either, really. I just thought, oh, I'm just going to go do this. So, yeah.
And what hiking experience had you had before you attempted to do the AT?
None. I mean, like I said, I'd done a few day hikes. I'd never done a day hike longer than like 5 miles. I went on a really, at the time, what I thought intense hike in college in the Whites. Um, and I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I'll never do anything like this again. But yeah, I'd just gone on day hikes before, and that's it.
And so, with all the reasoning you've just explained, like where you were at in life, that kind of explains why that you chose to do it in 2022 over every other year.
Mm-hmm.
But what research did you do before you got onto the trail?
So I didn't even decide to do the trail. I decided on February 5th of 2022, and I set my start date as March 27th. So I gave myself a little under 2 months of preparation. And in that time, I dropped out of grad school. I moved my apartment. I moved back home. Or I moved out of my apartment. I put all my stuff in storage. I moved back home. And in between all that, like every spare moment, I was just reading books. I was watching YouTube videos. I was, Googling. I was refining my gear list. I was figuring out what other people were taking. And basically just on the internet all day researching what other people were doing for the Appalachian Trail. And I kind of built my gear list and prepped myself that way by seeing what other people were doing.
And what physical prep did you do for the hike?
So I've been a distance runner since high school. Well, it's weird because my perception of distance, what's long distance, has really changed now. But I just kept up my running routine, which was 7 to 9 miles of running every other day. So like I wasn't doing more than 30 miles a week of running. And I was living in Nashville, so I was running on completely flat ground. And I was like, that'll be fine. I'm in decent shape. Like, it'll be okay. And I did a little bit of very light weightlifting with some 6-pound weights. I would just, do some curls. And I would, like, do some, I don't know what you call them, like back presses or whatever. Because I was thinking, no, I'm going to have to carry this backpack. And it's going to be really heavy, so I better, like, bulk up. Well, you're not going to bulk up with 6-pound weights, believe it or not.
Starting out, did you believe you'd make it the whole way, or where did you think you would get to?
Yeah, I never really couldn't picture myself getting like past Virginia. I told myself, I was like, I will absolutely not quit this trail no matter what happens. Like, even if I have to take time off, if I have to go home, if I have to do this, I have to do that. If it takes me, 8 months, I'm gonna finish this trail. And it was kind of a lofty goal because, like I said, it was hard for me to picture getting past, the places that I was familiar with. And like when I thought about like, oh, I'm gonna go hike through the White Mountains, or oh, I'm gonna be up on Katahdin one day, like my brain would go like, no, you won't. Like you say you want to make it there, and you say you're gonna make it there, but are you actually? I just couldn't picture it. I had absolutely no conception of what that would look like, and so I kind of felt like I wouldn't, even though I told myself like, yeah, you gotta do it. I still feel like in the back of my mind, I was always like, no, you probably won't.
What things along the trail surprised you?
I guess how safe it was. Like, I came out here with the perception of it being very dangerous and unsafe and scary, and it really wasn't like that at all. Like, maybe after the first 2 or 3 days, I slept really well. I started sleeping really well in my tent. I wasn't scared of, like, bears or, wild animals. I wasn't scared of the dark. I wasn't scared of other people. I felt pretty safe the entire time. So, yeah, it was a lot safer than I expected. I was surprised by all the rock climbing. I want everybody that's thinking about doing the Appalachian Trail to know there's so much rock climbing because in the 2 months, less than 2 months, of research that I did nonstop every day, 24/7, as much as I possibly could, I do not remember anybody talking about the amount of rock climbing. And I don't know if this is just like a black hole of knowledge that I just managed to forget about, or if I skipped over it, or if people really don't talk about it. But once you get to New Hampshire, it's pretty much just rock climbing for the rest of the way until you hit the 100-mile wilderness. And even then, it's still really rocky. You're not climbing rocks, but it's still really rocky. And I do not remember anybody saying anything about these rocks. I just remember people saying, Pennsylvania's rocky. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll get through Pennsylvania. I'll never see another rock again. Wrong. If you're thinking that, you're wrong.
So I imagine that's one of the things you wish you'd known before you started, was how rocky it was and how much technical rock climbing there was.
You know what? I feel like it's actually Providence that I somehow did not know that information, because I don't know if I would have come out here if I'd known that. I don't know if I would have committed to doing it. I thought it was just going to be like, not easy walking, but just walking on flat trail the whole way, like what you would actually think of as a hiking trail. Not you get up to the base of a mountain, you see a rock slide, and the trail is climb that. There's no designated path. It's just a bunch of big boulders. Like, you have to get up to the top of this mountain by climbing. If I'd known that, I really don't know if I would have committed to it, because I've never climbed a rock in my life. I have no desire to climb rocks. I mean, I didn't want to do it on the trail, but I especially don't want to do it now, and I wouldn't have wanted to do it then, not knowing anything about it. So, yeah. It's a good thing I didn't know about it, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Is there anything you do wish you'd known before you started?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there's so much that I didn't know when I started that I learned along the way. And I think it was kind of better that way. I think it's possible to be, like, too prepared, if that makes sense. Everything that I feel like I needed to know about backpacking and camping, hiking, I learned along the way.
So imagine those rocks. Well, I don't imagine. I was right there with you. I know how bad New Hampshire and Maine were for you.
God bless.
So those were the really, really bad points. But I mean, were there any really low points mentally or physically for you?
Mentally, maybe I went to visit my mom in Southern Virginia, and the day coming back from that was a mental low point, because I was really, really missing her, and I knew how much trail I still had left, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to see her for another 3 months. That's going to be hard. So that was a really hard day. Plus, I was separated from you and Red Panda, so it was all alone. That was the first time I'd been alone on the whole trail, so that was hard. Physically low. When I had norovirus, that was really tough. It took me a full week to recover. It took me a full week to be able to eat again. I mean, I could barely even eat food for a whole week. So that was really hard on my body. And other physical low points. There was a day, I think, in Connecticut where we walked through, well, there were multiple days where we walked through like 90 plus degree heat. And there's one day in particular, I think it was like 96. We did 16 miles. There were a bunch of mountains, and we got to camp, and I think all three of us were just so physically exhausted, so hot, so tired, and that was a hard day. I think that was the first day where I was like getting really tired of the trail, where I was like, I don't really want to do this anymore. I just had to keep on pushing through it. At that point, I had almost 700 miles left to go, but it wasn't fun anymore at that point. And then pretty much all of New Hampshire and Maine was just extreme physical and mental anguish. Every single day I woke up and I was like, gosh, I can't wait till I can go back to bed and not hike.
You used to say that sometimes you woke up and immediately said, I can't wait to go to bed tonight.
Yeah.
Were there any redeeming points? Like, what were your favourite things, the highlights for you?
Oh gosh, there were so many. I mean, I felt like almost every day you could find something good, something that made it worth being out there. There were a few days where it was just almost pure misery and like everything sucked. But for the most part, every day, like, seeing you and Red Panda at the end of the day, or, sharing a meal, eating dinner with y'all, seeing a really cool view, seeing like cool wildlife, like owls or, bears or anything like that. There's usually redeeming moments throughout the day. So,
what do you think got you through the toughest times?
Oh, definitely you and Red Panda. It would have been really hard if I'd just been on my own, if I hadn't had a tramily, if I'd just been hiking around people that I was familiar with but not friendly with. It was definitely the people. And towards the end, just knowing I was getting close to the finish, like knowing, oh, I'll be home in 2 weeks, I'll be home in a week. it was at that point, it was just hiking to be done hiking.
What do you feel were the reasons that you stayed on trail when other people have given up? Where, you know, obviously some people got injured and they had to go home, but other people we met went home because they found it too tough, or they got homesick, or they just felt the trail wasn't what they wanted anymore. What kept you on trail the whole way?
First of all, is that determination, me saying, like, committing at the beginning, I'm going to do this no matter what. Another thing, I think that some of the people we met towards the beginning that dropped out fairly early it was difficult for them to adjust to discomfort, to such a drastically different lifestyle than they were used to. And I've had a lot of like major changes. I've gone through a lot of major changes in my life, like going from, moves to cities that are vastly different from each other, and losing my dad pretty suddenly. I don't want to say that helped prepare me for making such a drastic lifestyle change, like I said, but it helped. And I think that a lot of people too have a hard time like being alone with their thoughts and being comfortable with being alone most of the day and pressing through really hard times. And I do too. I have a hard time with all those things. But I don't know, I've always set my mind to things and stuck with them. I've never committed to something and then backed out of it. So, and I think it was okay for a lot of people. Everybody that dropped out had, I think, really good, valid reasons, and they made the best choice for themselves. So I don't want to seem like I stuck it out and they didn't, and I'm better than them for that, because I don't think that at all. I think that everybody got from the trail what they needed, and they left when they needed, and they made the best decision for themselves. And the best decision for me was sticking through the whole thing.
That's a great point. And there were some times when you got neurovirus that you had to stay behind, and so there were a few times in the trip where you had to hike solo, and you came out here probably thinking that you would be a solo hiker or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that hiking as part of a tramily differed from when you had to hike solo? What was your experience there?
I mean, it motivated me. It kept me going. Knowing I always have people, friends to see at the end of the day, friends to hike around, friends that would support me. Because it's hard to, give yourself encouragement and support when you're on your own, and it gets lonely. I like to hike alone, but I don't like to be alone all day. I like to see you in the morning. I like to see you and Ropanda in the evening. And also just having you all near me on some of the days where, like, the weather was bad, like scary incidences, such as, heading up towards Mount Washington, the weather turned really bad really suddenly. If I'd been alone that day, I think I would have been so much more scared than I was. But I was with y'all, so it helped. And like Mount Katahdin, for example, I mean, I would have turned around if I hadn't been with y'all, because I did not feel comfortable going up those rocks. I was scared the wind was going to blow me off the mountain. I was like, if I fall off this mountain, nobody's ever going to know about it. Nobody's going to know where I am. Nobody's going to find me. I needed help, and y'all helped me out so many times, especially through the whites, like rocks that I couldn't get over, or, well, that's pretty much it. Rocks I couldn't get over, couldn't get down, and y'all helped me out with that. And there's so many points where I thought, if I didn't have somebody here, like, it would take me so long to figure out a way down this or up this, or I'd be so scared I'd probably just have to sit there and cry for a while and then finally figure out a way around. So not only you helping me out physically, but then encouraging me, like, you can do it, it's okay, it's not that scary, I'm right here. If you fall, I'll catch you. And there's several times, like on Mount Mayslack, when I did start to fall and you did catch me. So I would have been a lot more injured without y'all too.
And after 14 states, 2,000 190 odd miles. Well, 2,200 miles actually. And 172 days, 160 days of hiking. What did it feel like to summit and touch that sign?
Oh, pure relief. Pure relief. I was like, I never have to hike again. I mean, I had to hike down the mountain, obviously, but we hiked down an easier trail. But it was a huge feeling of accomplishment. It wasn't, see, the weather was so bad that I don't feel like I got to really soak it in as much as I would have liked to. Really just sat there and thought about it. But I thought about it the rest of the day, and actually somebody that we were hiking around with, Sunflower, he said that he felt this like huge peace at finishing the trail and with the trail. I was like, yeah, that's how I feel too. That's the feeling to describe it. It's not just relief, but it's peace. So I felt like I accomplished what I came out there to do physically. I completed the whole trail, but also emotionally and spiritually, it felt like an accomplishment.
I know it's maybe a bit too close to the summit day to actually say to answer this question, but how do you feel the trail will change your outlook and perspective on things? And how do you think having been an AT thru-hiker is going to affect the way you look at things in life?
I think it's definitely going to make me more comfortable with the uncomfortable. Like being, we spent so many days where it was just cold and wet, miserable, so unhappy, so uncomfortable. And I think it's going to make me more tolerant of discomfort. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to really think about that one. I feel like it'll help me to feel like I can just let go of things. Things aren't really that serious. They're not that big of a deal. Like, everything works itself out. Like, there's so many times this trail is panic that our plans aren't going to work out. We're going to make miles. This wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen. But things always worked out. And there's no reason to be anxious about anything because everything works out the way it's meant to. It's given me more peace with the world and how the world operates. It's given me more peace with myself, more self-confidence, more self-assurance, more independence. I feel like I can tackle anything. Definitely didn't feel like that before.
How do you think being a successful AT thru-hiker is going to affect your life in the future? And slightly different from the last question, but I mean, is it going to open more doors? Is it going to change the way that you operate your life or the goals that you find important? Is it going to, are you going to become more of a minimalist now, or more of a, is hiking going to be part of your life forever?
Oh, no. Hiking is never going to be part of my life again. I'm just kidding. I'm sure I'll hike again, just not thru-hike. I have no desire to do such a long hike anymore. But yeah, I'll definitely hike some more. I feel like I'm going to get rid of a lot of stuff because now that I've seen how I can live with very limited, just necessities. I don't feel like I need all the stuff that I own. I'm definitely going to get rid of that kind of, all the extras. Yeah. It's opened more opportunities as far as, I'm going to be working with ATC on the Stewardship Council and helping improve the trail, and that's a position I would not have gotten if I hadn't been thru-hiking. That was specifically why they chose me, because I'm a current thru-hiker. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, I feel like I'll be able to use my knowledge to break into outdoor careers. Like I was telling you, there's a new trail center in Damascus, which is not too far from where I live. I'd be interested in getting involved in that. I'd be interested in doing trail maintenance and just seeing where these positions that I previously knew nothing about, getting involved in them will take me. So
awesome. And with the hindsight that you've got now, what would you change or do differently, if anything? if you were doing the trail again?
I wouldn't change anything. You asked me this question a couple days ago in the airport. I said I think I would have taken more time to just enjoy myself and enjoy the places I was, but I feel like I enjoyed everything that I really wanted to enjoy. I spent enough time in places I really wanted to spend, and I'm so grateful to be not hiking, be back off the trail, be back home. I'm grateful to be here right now, and if any of that had changed, then I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't have summoned a Katahdin on the 15th. I wouldn't have, all these things wouldn't have happened if I'd spent a little longer in this place, or spent a little longer, doing this or that. So I think I spent my time exactly the way I needed to spend it, and I ended up exactly where I needed to be at exactly the right time. No regrets.
That's amazing that you got through the whole trail and there was nothing you would really want to change.
I wouldn't even change the ice cream challenge. Like, I did almost puke that day, and I was pretty miserable. But you know what? I'd do it all again.
Specifically for you coming into this as a female, potentially hiking on her own, what were your concerns about the trail, really?
You're scared of men, you're scared of groups of men, you're scared of being the only woman in a place. There was a lot of times where at camp I was the only woman. I pointed out to you a few times, but nobody else seemed to notice. 99.9% of men just look at you as, oh, another thru-hiker. It's not really a gendered thing. There are some men out there that will, look at you and try to hit on you and try to talk to you. And I had a few of those along the trail, and that was one of my fears. It's like, oh my gosh, what if there are a bunch of guys out here and they're just, being guys. But I had far fewer than I was expecting. Be weird, be creepy, be too much. There were very few instances where I was uncomfortable, or there's no instances where I was even scared, where I felt threatened, like my safety felt threatened. Because you're always around so many people. Like I said, the majority of guys are cool. They'll help you out. They want to, I think that they feel almost protective of you as a woman if you're, facing somebody who's uncomfortable or making you uncomfortable. So all of those fears I had about it, none of them materialized.
What advice would you give to hikers, specifically female hikers who wanted to do a long distance hike?
You don't need a gun. Honestly, okay, really. So I come from the South. I grew up with guns. I like guns. I have nothing against them. I've shot plenty of guns in my life. I keep guns in my house. But you know what? And I honestly considered taking one on my thru-hike. Because even though I saw all the advice, even though everybody's like, don't take one, you won't need it, I still thought, well, I might. Like, I'm small, I'm a woman, I'm going to be out here alone, I don't know what I'm doing, maybe I need one. But you really do not need one. Take pepper spray if that makes you feel better. Take a really sharp knife, keep the knife somewhere accessible, keep the pepper spray somewhere accessible. Like I said, it's so much safer than you would think it would be, I guess, or that I thought it would be. And people, like you said, you're always around somebody. It's not like you're going to be out there for days at a time without seeing people. Like, you will show up on the first few days, and there's going to be 30, 40, 50 people at each camp. It's going to be so crowded. You're always going to be seeing people on the trail. And throughout the trail, you're going to be seeing people. Like, it never, really dies off. You're always around people. And the majority of them are very good people who have very honest, genuine, thoughtful reasons for being out here hiking too. Just like you. So, it's not a concern. Don't worry about your safety. Don't worry about whether or not you're going to return home, because you will. It'll be fine.
And lastly, it's February, March 2022, and you know everything you know now. You just haven't done the hike yet. Would you do it?
Oh yeah. Like I said, no regrets. I'm so glad I did it. Some days are really hard. Some weeks are really hard. Like, the past month was just a slog. Like, every single day was just so difficult. And while I was in it, I was like, oh my gosh, I hate this so much. But now that I'm done with it, I look back and I think, that was a month of my life that was really tough. I mean, overall, that was 5.5 months of my life that were pretty tough. But that's like nothing, you know? It went by so quickly. Every day felt really long and really hard. And now I look back and I think, gosh, that just passed by so fast. And even though it was tough during the day, like, now that I look back, it's almost like I've almost forgotten the bad parts already, and it's only been 3 days. Like, all the good parts overwhelm the bad. All the enjoyable moments overwhelm the not enjoyable moments. So, yeah, absolutely no regrets doing it. I would 100% do it again if I knew what I was in for. Even with all the rocks, I guess. I don't think you could accurately prepare yourself for how many rocks there are in the Whites in southern Maine. There's no way to know or to prepare without just doing it and seeing it face to face. Looking up South Kinsman or whatever the hell that mountain was, and it's literally just boulders straight up. Like, it doesn't sound that bad when I'm saying it, right? But then you get up to it and you're like, oh. So, even knowing how bad Kinsman was, I'd still do it again.
It's amazing. I'm so glad and privileged to have been with you and Red Panda all this way for 172 days or whatever it was. And it's just an amazing, life-changing experience to have had that 5.5, 6 months with you. Let's pound it.
Oh, I'm still really sore.
Thank you for sitting down and sharing your opinion.
Well,
and
thank you.
Thank you for being part of the vlogs for so long.
Thank you for having me in it, and thank you for sitting down and talking to me about it. I hope this video helps other potential thru-hikers. You should do it. If you're thinking about it, you should do it. But do know that you will be very sore for a very long time afterwards. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to stand up again.
Amazing.
Let's see. Can I do it? Oh, gosh. I'm doing it. Yeah. Oh.
Amazing. Thanks, Em.
Thank you.